You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here in Keep Canada Weird, my pal handsome Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore some of the more offbeat Canadian news stories from the past week. In tonight's episode, which we recorded on the evening of November 6th, 2022, Aaron and I open up a treasure trove of weird Canadiana. Our discussion will feature the best and the worst of Canada's 2022 trick-or-treating related news stories. We'll talk about the great neighbour who kicked in his neighbour's door late at night. And well, we'll question the artistic merit of Jizzy Jewellery. So let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport. You're very smiley tonight. What's gotten you in such a great mood?
I smile at the start of every recording, so please don't differentiate this between other episodes, please.
You're always this smiley and happy, and that's good. It's great to get this side of you, because I've seen dark Aaron.
You have seen, yeah, and
don't want him on this show.
No, he wasn't hired by the Queen to keep Canada weird.
No, that's exactly right.
He's to be left in the darkness and the shadows.
Speaking of the Queen, Queen Romana Digiulo, the self-declared Queen, was a surprise visit to Halifax just yesterday. Beautiful day yesterday in Halifax. Despite it being yesterday was November 5th. It was like 20 degrees. And
yeah, it was warm here too. It was crazy.
The Queen
did warm today too. Today is warm.
It's bizarre. I don't know if it's global warming or something different, but I'll take t-shirt weather in November. Because we've worn winter jackets on Halloween before, so t-shirts in November is great. But the Queen, she was here in Halifax. I didn't get a chance to go see her, but her she was parked on the side of or in a parking lot of Canadian Tire with a huge sign that said Her Royal Majesty Romana Digiulo meet and greet, but meet was MEAT.
MEAT, yeah, pork and greet.
How could you make that mistake? But it's an amazing.
How could you make it? Well, just the education system.
Mm-hmm. That's
how you make it. Yeah.
Maybe it was just a backhanded way of her saying, I'm going to fix this country's education
system. Or maybe
system.
It was kind of a metaphor for I'm bringing the meat of the topics, and we're going to chew on those topics. A medium rare steak.
So maybe. It could be. It's a meet and greet, but don't think you're just going to stand around here and meet her. We're going to be talking about the issues.
No, we're going to chew the fat.
Which would be not talking about the issues. I don't get the analogy. If you were say if you and I were going to have a talk and I said we're just going to chew the fat together, would that mean we're just going to shoot the SHIT, or would that mean we're going to talk about issues?
In this circumstance, it means exactly what I implied it to mean. So I think I'd like to move forward.
Okay, let's move on. Is there anything new in your life over the past week that you feel is worthy of sharing with the listeners of Keep Canada Weird?
I don't care for this question every week you ask it. In fact, it bothers me, and it's none of your business. The listeners and viewers of Keep Canada Weird come here for weird news stories and not to hear about the non-weird things that happen in my life.
Well, I beg to differ. I'm going to play you a voicemail.
No!
This one is. I didn't plan this. This is a voicemail that just came in this morning from a displaced Cape Bretoner, who I dare say she would care to hear about what you've been up to this past week.
All right. I'm curious. I'm very curious. Let's hear it.
Jordan and Aaron, I just wanted to say thank you so much for keeping Canada weird. I love listening to you guys. I am from Cape Breton. I don't know how. I don't know you guys. I'm from Sydney, but I moved away over 20 years ago. And I think we're around the same age. Listening to you guys talk about Gill Holmes Lake and stuff just really pulled at my heartstrings. I just long for Cape Breton again. But you know how it is. Someday I'll be able to move back. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing what you do, for keeping Canada weird, and just for the chuckles. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Isn't that nice? There's no typos, no place names we got wrong. Just like a nice message.
And that voice sounded familiar. I was trying to place it, but I guess if she knew either of us, she would have said something. But
we don't know many people.
Yeah, normally we get voicemails about, oh, you mispronounced this and that, and you're stupid. And
well, I think that the reason she likes us is because she's also from Cape Breton, so the places that we name that she would know, we're getting right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the people who can't stand us are the people who don't live in the same place as us, because if we talk about where they're from, we just butcher it.
We do, yeah, but we know a lot or enough about our general vicinity that...
Yeah, a small, like sparsely populated island on the far east of Canada. Yeah, we know that much.
We do, yeah.
Well, let's get into it. We got a loaded plate. We got a stacked plate. We got
a lot of meat to chew.
We got a lot of meat to chew. We got I'm going to call it, we got the good and the bad of 2022 trick-or-treating news stories. We're going to talk about Jizzy Jewellery. And then maybe we'll wrap it up with the story of a good neighbor.
I was thinking about Jizzy Jewellery being the closer, but
like
sure,
what's it called? Like a happy finish?
Happy ending.
A happy ending. Yeah, that'll be the happy ending.
Not that I know much about those.
Yeah, let's not go there. So
okay, yeah. So, or save it for the Jizzy Jewellery story.
Save it for that. So every year, generally a day or two after Halloween, is when you start getting the stories about like trick-or-treating gone wrong, weird crap in candy, all sorts of like strange things like that. I have a feeling each year as Keep Canada Weird goes on, our first episode in November will be an opportunity to highlight these stories of trick-or-treating gone wrong or gone right.
Or gone, yeah, both of those things.
Since this is going to serve as a bit of a cautionary tale, I'm going to bring my boy in here who is a seasoned trick-or-treater. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hello.
Our Halloween correspondent.
He knows all about trick-or-treating. He's gone door to door. He's taken candy from strangers. I'm not too worried about him, though, because this year we did have like a sort of candy trick-or-treating close call, but he knew what to do. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's one house not too far from us. You went up to the door. Actually, we didn't go to the house because they didn't have lights on, but then the owner of the house came running out saying, trick or treat here, trick or treat here. So we went back to their house and she took a selfie with him.
Okay.
She pulled him aside and took a selfie, which is kind of weird for a stranger to do. And then she gave you, what was unique about the candy she gave you?
It was like in a cup and it didn't have a wrapper.
It was like a bunch of jelly beans in like a shot glass.
Oh, okay.
So I think you knew that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And I think we dumped them on the ground somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
In front of her house. Or you threw them back at her.
We threw them at her.
No,
Damn your unwrapped beans, woman. Plant them yourself.
So
grow your jelly.
I'm not too concerned about him being like, I don't know, victimized in some way at Halloween. But needless to say, in Canada this year, just like every other year, some weird stuff ended up in some kids' candy.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, well,
no,
you're gonna be. You may be surprised when we get into it here, Dom. This story takes place in Winnipeg. Here's what's going on.
Parents are being urged to check their kids' Halloween treats tonight after Winnipeg police received at least half a dozen reports of children getting cannabis edibles in their candy bags. All of the reports so far are from the city's South Tuxedo neighborhood. The product came in packaging that looks like candy, but the label says it contains 600 milligrams of THC. Standing by with the details for us tonight is CTV's Josh Crabb. So Josh, do police know if any kids consumed these THC candies?
According to Winnipeg Police and Shared Health, no children have been harmed from getting and eating the edibles, but RCMP in British Columbia say a child who got a similar product ate the THC candy and ended up in hospital. What started as a fun night trick-or-treating with friends in South Tuxedo ended with a disturbing discovery for Jocelyn Cordero's 9-year-old daughter.
And so she picked it up and looked at it, and then she said, 60-minute activation time. What does that mean?
That's when Cordero took the package and realized the product, called Medicated Nerds Rope Bites, which look like candy, is actually labeled as containing THC, the main psychoactive substance in cannabis that makes people feel high and can be harmful to children.
I can't even imagine what it would have meant if she had opened it and eaten it and then gone to bed.
Cordero contacted other families who they'd been trick-or-treating with, took to social media to alert others, and called the Winnipeg Police Service. She says 4 out of the 5 kids in the group got edibles. Officers say so far they've received 6 reports from the South Tuxedo neighborhood about kids getting similar THC candy, but police say they still have to do testing on the products.
We're treating it as a serious incident, and we're treating it as if it is actually a cannabis substance that's been distributed to children.
Constable Danny McKinnon says the product came packaged in sandwich bags with full-size chocolate bars. Recreational cannabis products, including edibles, can be sold legally in Canada, but they must be packaged in a plain-looking child-resistant container with restrictions on logos, colors, and branding.
These particular candied items that we have seized, they do not meet those requirements. So at this stage, we do not know where these packages are from.
The product is advertised as containing 600 milligrams of THC, which one expert in pharmacology and therapeutics describes as a very large amount. In British Columbia, Richmond RCMP say a child consumed a similarly labeled product after trick-or-treating on Halloween night and had to be taken to hospital, but police there say so far it appears to be an isolated incident, as no other reports have been received.
It's so much more important that the word is out, that people know, just in case, because I would hate to think of what might happen.
Let's get my the boys' take on it first. As a newly minted 10-year-old, does that mean anything to you, bud? Do you even know what's happening there?
People stink.
People do stink, in essence.
Yeah. But they
So
weren't
it's-
giving out deodorant. In
They weren't giving out
streets.
deodorant, yeah, so it's not going to help with that.
No.
They gave out almost like if they had given out juice, but really there was wine in there. So juice labeled as marketed as if it was for kids. Luckily, in this case, the parents got to go through their candy and noticed it, I guess. Much like, and that's why I tell you when I'm at night, when I open up your candy and I'm eating it and tasting it and trying it, that's just because I'm trying to keep you safe. Especially when you got Coffee Crisp.
No.
I keep very safe. Your
Even
Coffee
if
Crisp.
there was stuff in the coffee crisp, I'd probably still eat it.
Yeah, and that was one thing with this story here. They packaged it with a full-size chocolate bar.
That's what I wanted to focus on with this story is, that's in the Ziploc bag was the THC candy, the Nerds, but also 2 full-size chocolate bars, a full-size Snicker and a full-size Mars.
Like the Trojan horse, right? That gets them in the door. Like the kids are going to see that and they're like...
When I was young, Dom's age, trick-or-treating, there was this kind of wealthier neighborhood, up the road from me that I used to go to trick-or-treat because they were wealthier. They gave out the full-size bars. So you would think the demographic that are handing out full-size bars wouldn't be the same demographic that would be inclined to hand out weed gummies or THC candy.
Who can afford to hand out THC candy though? Even if it's like a prank or something like that. I don't know what that's
right. So
yeah,
that's the sign. The full-size bars in the Ziploc bag is a sign that this is a wealthier person, upper middle class at least, that is handing this out.
Yeah, like this whole Halloween, you got 1 full-size bar.
Yeah.
And your brother got 1, and then you ended up trading a bunch of chips for it, so you ended up with 2 full-size bars.
No, I didn't end up trading a bunch of chips, a bunch of random stuff.
Okay.
Random stuff, yeah. Not even Halloween stuff, just a towel.
But this is a cautionary tale for you, bud. So when I start going through your candy, don't be like, Dad, don't eat my stuff. I'm doing parenting, okay?
Okay.
Okay, get out of here. Get out of here. Aaron, the adults are in the room now.
Okay, yeah. Well, you can take it up a notch now.
Do you have any idea what that would cost? Like a bag of THC nerds? Like, would that be $20 or something?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, at least. And also, they're handing it out not just to one kid, they're handing it out to the kids in the neighborhood. So this is like, again, it's the kind of household that can give out 2 full-size bars per trick-or-treater, plus THC candy. That's someone who's well-to-do. This is not just like, you know, you're trick-or-treating in some kind of area and that's, you know, maybe low income and you come across like kind of a shady house and they're handing out some questionable treats or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're like homemade kind of weed brownies or something, but this is like expensive stuff.
Something's going on. And when I hear these stories, for one, I don't really ever think they're true. I always kind of question them. Like, is this someone looking to get in the news or some, you know, one prank, like some stupid thing one person did one time. But in this case, like you said, there's like at least 5 or 6 incidents that have been reported according to that news report. If they're, you know, whatever, $10, $15 a bag, I don't know. I cannot imagine what their motivation for doing this was. However, we will probably learn, because very quickly after that report spread, and now these kinds of stories about, you know, weird stuff in Halloween candy, they go viral every year immediately after they're printed and or issued or whatever. In this case, surprisingly enough, and I don't know if I've ever heard of this happening, but it led to an arrest. They ended up finding the people.
Here's the
Here's the update.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Winnipeg police have arrested and charged 2 people after some children in the South Tuxedo neighborhood got a shocking surprise in their Halloween candy bags Monday night. Let's bring in Kevin Hirschfield now with more on the charges. Kevin?
Well, Lisa, police ended up receiving more than a dozen reports of THC Nerds candies being found in treat bags on Halloween night. And just 2 days later, they've tracked down 2 people allegedly responsible for handing them out. A 53-year-old woman and 63-year-old man were arrested at a home on Coleraine Crescent. They now face more than 50 charges relating to distributing cannabis to young people, distributing illegal cannabis, and administering an item that could cause bodily harm. Police say kids between the ages of 6 and 16 received the edibles. They haven't confirmed if any of the children actually ingested them. Now, testing still needs to be done on the gummies, but investigators believe the candies do actually contain THC and are the real thing. So now the question is, why did these pair hand them out? Well, Constable Danny McKinnon says the motive is still unclear.
I don't think that we are going to be able to provide anything really concrete today. In meeting with the investigative team, though, I can say investigators believe that nobody was intentionally targeted.
Now, word spread quickly after images of the candies were posted by parents on social media the morning after Halloween. And Constable McKinnon says police are thankful with how fast the community acted.
Now, this is one time where I would like to say social media did a great job. They quickly spread the news to a small community member, and those people very quickly called the police. That's not often the case. Sometimes social media is just used to report to the social masses, but not to the police.
The plot thickens. So
yes, it does. Yeah.
Few things there. For one, in that news report, you can see the neighborhood just like you predicted. It's like, I'd say upper middle class neighborhood.
Yeah, and it's an older couple.
Yeah, 50-something, 60-something year old couple.
Like this isn't a frat house that they were trick or treating at, where it's like, dude, trick or treat.
Yeah, and it's weed. They said, I think it was like 50-ish charges. Although each time they handed out the candy, that can be proven. There's probably a few charges that go along with each incident. When they read the charges, one, you know, like one for distributing, one for like risking the kid's health and all this stuff. So it's not to say they've been caught passing it out 50 times, but certainly like, you know, the law is coming for them. But there was one statement in that report that made me just wonder what the hell. The cop who was talking, doing the press conference or whatever, said, what we can say at this point is that no one seems to have been targeted. Now, my question is, does that mean they weren't targeting certain children, or does that mean this whole thing was like some bizarre accident and they didn't mean to do this?
I took it as like no one personally was targeted. Like this was just them handing out THC candy to whoever's going to come to the door. Like it wasn't like a personal kind of attack on one individual kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's how I took it. I could be wrong. But.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I took it too. But then I just think, well, why would they say that in the press release? Because it's like, I think everyone's probably assuming that they were giving it out to kids that were trick-or-treating, not to just the bad kids in the neighborhood or something. But
yeah,
it's scary when you hear it's people who received it between the ages of 6 and 16. There's a huge difference. A 16-year-old eats an edible and they're going to have a weird night. A 6-year-old, like, and you know, 6 at that age, like, there's 6-year-olds that are, you know, tall. There's 6-year-olds that are really tiny, and my kids are always on the smaller side. So when my kid was 6, both of them look more like they're like, you know, 4, you know, in terms of weight.
And this is not a small dosage of THC either.
No, yeah, on the package it even says
600. Like that's incredibly high.
Yeah, and it's even marketed on the package. It's like, you know, whatever, nerds, rope dope or something, and then it says like super potent formula. So like for an adult, this would be like, I'm going to get really high.
600 would put me completely out. I don't know, because I've tried some, you know, weed gummies in the past, and they were like 20, 25.
Okay.
You know, like, I remember my sister had one and she could hardly walk. She was so high off of it. And 600, like, that's just like, you know, the mothership is coming to get me. And I'm just like, you know, me and the cult are taking 600, you know, together.
What? Yeah, but for like a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old,
it would be awful. Yeah.
What would it do to them? I guess that it would be a hospital thing.
Yeah, I guess it'd be maybe, I don't know. I don't know much about that end of it, but
it would certainly be a bad scene. And then on top of that, say like the way it works for a lot of kids is they get home, they open their candy, they're just digging and eating a bunch of crap. If that happened, like, and the kids started freaking out and like, or getting sick or something, you would just assume he just had too much candy.
Too much candy. Yeah.
And
especially if they eat the weed gummies first and then they get really high and then they gorge on the candy because they're so high.
Oh, what a mess. Like these people, people need to, like, they need to figure out what had happened. And if it was intentional, like if they did this being like, I'm going to give a bunch of kids super potent THC edibles, man, they need to throw the book at these people. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely a really bad. I mean, this is a tale as old as time, somewhat, with Halloween, because when we were kids, you would get like baked goods often as treats for Halloween. Like when I was a kid, candy apples, homemade fudge, homemade cookies, like, and they'd be wrapped in Saran wrap or in Ziploc bags, and you ate them. There was no debate about it.
The fear when we were kids, like what people would say is that they would put like razor
blades and apples,
or nails or little things like that. And I'm sure our parents probably like 30 something years ago had the same conversation we're having now about like some guy out west who got caught putting like a nail in an apple or something. But I think the difference in this story is they got the person, they have the evidence, they had them arrested. They need to just nail them to the wall in to show that people care about these kind of urban legends and save Halloween for future years. Because it's very easily a kid could have popped open a bag of those nerds and just one handful of them chucked it in their mouth and, like, you know, and died that night.
Oh, the
like
entire bag or whatever, you know, taking it all at once. And
well, we'll see what happens, but I think hopefully the news follows it and they don't just let it go, because a story like that's going to be a big deal on, you know, November 3rd, not such a big deal on, you know, March 5th when it finally ends up in court.
Yeah, and it's not surprising, like, you know, knowing that when weed became legal here in Canada and edibles, things like that, and, you know, edible gummies and candy and suckers and all the different ways that you could put, you know, weed into treats, like the whole kind of battle's been trying to get it out of the hands of kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And candy is so enticing to kids, and between kids eating Tide Pods and THC laced candy, it's like, what can the kids eat anymore?
I know, it's tough being a kid.
Yeah. Everything looks delicious.
Yeah. We don't need to go deep into this, but there's also a dark story about trick-or-treating out of Alberta. This one is it was like a little like Ziploc bag or sandwich bag or whatever with 2 packs of Sour Patch Kids, like gummies, but in there was also like these brown chunks, and they're presuming, and I think that means they're assuming, but they haven't proved yet. They believe it to be fentanyl.
Yeah, that's way worse than.
It seems to be, so far, it seems to be an isolated incident. There's just one report of this, as far as I could see, but that's that's a whole nother level. A kid eats and
it was an open package too, with like pieces of what could appear to be chocolate, maybe, but turned out to be fentanyl.
Or I don't know if they've proven it yet. I think it was like they're assuming,
or it's a suspected positive or something.
Whatever, they're using the word presumed
positive.
Yeah. So I guess
we haven't done the test, and we really haven't examined it at all.
It's
but
probably
I'm assuming it's
maybe it'll end up being. It's probably chocolate.
Actually, no. It's just Hershey's.
Let's move on to a positive story, though, because trick-or-treating, I don't want to focus. I love trick-or-treating so much. It's such a great tradition that my whole life, it has been like a great source of joy every year. It's not all bad. Something nice happened in Ontario. Let me tell you about the little hero. When Catherine Denny Bernique and her daughter Piper got home from trick-or-treating in Hawkesbury, Ontario on Halloween night, they found they had collected more than just candy. The 8-year-old found a ring among her collection of sweets. She initially thought it was just a toy, but her parents confirmed this is the real thing. I dumped out my candy and I thought it was like a little plastic ring, Piper said. Then I showed it to my mom and she was like, yep, that's gold. Piper says she told her mother that they had to find the owner. So right away our hearts sank, Denny Bernique said on Thursday. We wanted to try and find the owner of the ring. The family reported the found ring to the Ontario Provincial Police the next day. Police said in a news release on Wednesday. The ring's owner, Diane Swanson, had also called police in hopes that her ring had been found. Denny Bernique works at the Hawkesbury OPP detachment and took the call from Swanson. I think I may have interrupted her and just said, oh, one second. I think I got good news for you. Police believe that when Swanson put the candy in Piper's bag, her ring slipped off into the bag. Swanson said the ring had sentimental value. It was a present from her husband 28 years ago. What are the chances of a child finding a diamond ring in their bag and turning it in? Swanson said. It's remarkable. I'm still shaking. Swanson wanted to give a reward to the family for returning her ring, but they said they were just happy to return it and do the right thing. Swanson instead donated $250 to the local food bank.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like that? Do you like that she did that, or was that the wrong thing to return it?
Well, it's Halloween, and the whole point is to go door to door, hold out a bag, and get your treats, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe if I had pulled out a gold or diamond ring or whatever, I'd be like, well, that's just a rich neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a treat. And the whole idea of trick-or-treating, you're open to getting a trick as well. So no one owes it to you to put a treat in your bag. They could put a firecracker in your bag and it's like, bang! They could be like, ha, it was a trick. And you have to take that. Yeah. That's kind of par for the course. I think that said, you find a diamond ring in there, you're like, that's a treat.
That's a treat. It's a big treat.
Mm-hmm.
So I may have kept this as a child. As an adult, I probably would have searched out the owner. But I don't trick or treat as an adult, so I would never be in that situation.
But I think Piper could have easily had a nice trip to the pawn shop on November 1st.
Yeah. And, if you're handing out treats on Halloween, maybe don't wear an expensive diamond ring as you're reaching into kids' bags.
Let that be a cautionary tale.
Let that be a lesson learned. be careful.
So one lesson learned there is that you don't wear a diamond ring when you're loading up the treat bags or when you're passing out candy on Halloween night.
And what's the fit on this ring, like that it could slip off like that? Like, if this is a ring that she's been wearing for 30 years, how does it, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the loading the treats in the bag is not a very rigorous activity.
It's not like she's, swinging her arms wildly and banging her hand against the door trying to do this. Like, you're just gently picking up treats and dropping them in bags. So how does a ring that she's worn for so many years just slip off like that? That should be fitted well to her finger, right?
It needs to be refitted.
You know what? I think there's something more to the story that she's not explaining. I don't think it was her ring, to be perfectly honest. I think she just recently acquired this ring through, possibly illegal methods. I don't know.
Oh, maybe a kid knocked on her door and said, "I found this ring last night when trick-or-treating. Did you lose a ring?" And then the lady was like,
"Yeah,
well,
I did.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was a gift from my husband, 30 years. Give it to me." And she talked in a very deep voice as well. That's a gift from my husband.
It was, yeah. Well, we're not going to get to the bottom of that. For now, let's let that be a happy story.
No, we will blindly accuse her of stealing that ring either before or after the kid found it.
The next story, so that was a cautionary tale, maybe about removing your ring when you're putting the treats out. But I think another lesson we could learn in this episode of Keep Canada Weird is that if someone is at your door in the middle of the night trying to kick it down, it's not necessarily a bad thing. They may have something important to tell you, something useful, something that'll protect you. Let's hear about the story of a good neighbor who kicked down their neighbor's door in Alberta.
The Minster family is praising a neighbor for kicking in their door in the dead of night last weekend. The family's house was on fire. And as Jeremy Thompson reports, some quick thinking and feat of strength may have saved lives.
It's a frantic 4 a.m. visit.
Please open up!
A doorbell cam captures a man desperately trying to wake up the family inside this home as flames roar in the background on the house next door.
There was a big bang at the door. I woke my wife up. She woke me up.
Mike Champagne, his wife and 2 kids thought a burglar was trying to get inside. Turns out it was a benevolent break-in.
You guys!
He came out of nowhere and could possibly have saved our lives.
Champagne says the Good Samaritan is Travis Levitsky, a neighbor he's never met before.
He actually went to the other house first, so the house on the east side of the house that was burning, woke them up first, and then came to our house.
Levitsky happens to have a history of good deeds. He raised $15,000 for Lloydminster Kidsport this summer through the Ice Wars hockey fight contest in Edmonton. His 6'3", 300-plus pound frame, helpful in both scenarios. Lloydminster Fire says everyone in all 3 houses, including a dog, made it out uninjured. Champagne's siding is melted and there's smoke damage inside, but his mind is focused on the help his family got from a stranger.
A lot of love, a lot of people calling him a hero. I call him a hero. The man is a good man in my books.
That guy booting at the door. A part of me,
I don't know what's scarier, the fire or this guy,
or the madman booting at the door. I would be terrified, and I'm thinking, like, he's lucky he didn't get shot. Like in a lot of kicking the door like that in the middle of the night at a lot of houses would get you shot.
Yeah, but I guess in the moment, he's just doing what he has to do.
Yeah, they're like, these people are lucky that they had a neighbor that was ready to spring into action like that. I don't know what I would do, I guess, unless I was actually in that situation. But for one, I don't think
you would have ran. Like, you wouldn't have done anything.
No, I don't. Well, for one, I don't think I'd be able to kick the door down. I would just be kicking
I would
the door.
be questioning my kicking methods as well.
Like, I'm sure what I would be doing is kicking the door. This guy straight up kicked the door in.
Yeah.
Like off the hinges, booted it while ringing the doorbell. And you get the video that they shared, like from the Ring or the video doorbell, you get such a great shot because you see the guy kicking the door, this big guy with a hood up. Then you see the home behind him with flames ripping out of it. Like, that's a crazy shot to capture. But it's pretty impressive. Like, it's good to have a neighbor like that. I think sometimes I complain about my neighbor who's a little hands-on with talking to me about, the leaves and the property and stuff. But I think this is maybe a reminder that, having good neighbors that look out for each other, that's an important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really talk to my neighbors too much, but I did kind of notice though in the video when the guy was talking, the guy who lived in the house.
Yeah.
He was saying, "Oh, he went to the other neighbors first, and then he went, and then he came over to our house." So he did make a point to say that. So I felt like there was a little underlying kind of cynicism there. He had to go out of his way to mention, like, he did go to the other neighbors first, and then eventually came over to ours and kicked our door down too.
It's like, if we're going to be praising this guy, let's just be honest.
Let's be honest. It was a new door as well that I had just gotten.
Yeah, when they were listing the damage to the home, they're like, some of his siding was melted and there was a bit of smoke damage. I wanted them to add, in the front door was severely damaged.
And the front door was completely destroyed by the 300-pound hockey fighter.
Yeah, and that's another funny kind of subplot in this, is they show the guy who kicked the door in had done good in the community before because he organized, which I had no idea that this existed, but it looks like a Canadian version of like MMA or like UFC, where it's two people in hockey gear with like UFC gloves on having a hockey fight.
Yeah, pulling the sweaters over each other's heads and just giving it to each other. Yeah, so he raised $15,000 for that.
Yeah, got brain damage or gave brain damage based on the size of him.
Which I'm sure is a very entertaining thing to watch, but is it really for the community or is
well, it earned $15,000. There's worse stuff you could do, but it's
there's worse things you could spend $15,000 on, but hockey fights outside of a hockey game. It's interesting.
Well, I've told this story before. Hockey fights in a hockey game are a big deal. My son, who was on the show earlier this evening, he, I think we won tickets. No, he wanted to go to a hockey game because all the kids at his school were talking about the Halifax Screaming Eagles, which are like a team in Halifax, a hockey team. All the kids in his class when he was in like grade 1.
Wait, what did you call them?
The Halifax Screaming Eagles? No, that's the Cape Breton.
That's the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles that are here.
What are the Halifax then?
Mooseheads or something?
Maybe. Whatever the Halifax team is. When my son was in like grade primary or 1 or something, the other guys in the class were always talking about the local hockey team. And I don't watch hockey, so it was all new to him. But all of his friends were into it. So he's like, "We should go to a hockey game, Dad." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And we looked online and there was a game like a couple days later. So we got tickets. And I took him to his first hockey game, and we got popcorn and pop, and we're like sitting down watching the game, and he doesn't know hockey, so I'm explaining the rules and how it's all working, and we're like loving it. It's this great game. There's people in the stand near us cheering, and there's all this excitement, and then all of a sudden, this like horrifically violent hockey fight breaks out on the ice. The people near us, like behind us, are like standing up, grown men shouting like, "Kill him! Kick it! Punches, face it," like just violent screaming.
Yeah,
they have the gloves down, they're punching each other up against the boards. My son immediately, like, I look down at him and he's just like white as a ghost, and like if he wasn't so upset he would have been crying. And the hockey fight breaks out. They break it up eventually, the ref or whatever, and give the people penalties, and my son was just like, "Get me out of here," and we left. And my whole life, like, I had a different view of hockey fights. After that experience, I was like, no, hockey fights,
it's different when you see it right in front of you. Like, sometimes you can see it on TV so much that you become a little numb to it. But then when you see it right in front of you, especially being younger, and it's kind of shocking.
He was like 6 at the time, and he hadn't watched hockey, so he had no idea what was happening. And I think it was seeing it on the ice was one thing, but having the people around us, like, freak
get
out.
really into the fight.
Yeah, and it was like
feels a bit chaotic, I think.
Yeah, but anyway, that's I guess only a small part of this story. But regardless, a tip of the Keep Canada Weird hat to this neighbor who kicked in their other neighbor's door.
Yeah, let us all kick in our neighbors' doors
for the right
Make
reasons.
sure they're okay.
Check in on them, right?
How you doing? You know,
everything fire. I thought I smelled something.
No, it's just you're cooking spaghetti. Okay.
Let's get to the main event here.
Ah, yes, the main event.
We both are wearing the closest thing to jewelry, I guess, that we're wearing is we both have earbud headphones in. You're not a big jewelry guy. I don't recall you ever wearing like rings or...
I've never, other than like a few times in my life, I've had a watch. That's probably the closest thing to jewelry I've ever had.
I couldn't do it. Having like a ring on my finger, a watch on my wrist, something around my neck, I would just fiddle with it. I can't even have a pencil because I will chew the pencil and I'll bend it and I'll get ink on my hands and in my mouth. I'm so fidgety. Like having a piece of jewelry on my hand would just drive me complete. I'd need to like take new medicine or something to be able to handle having something touching my body. Something
I
new
agree.
and
Pencils and jewelry, they're all very intense things. It's a lot of your sensory overload.
Yeah, but this story is I've never been interested in jewelry. It's not at all a part of my life. It's nothing I ever care to talk about.
You've made that clear. You've offended every jewelry wearer and producer in the country right now.
But if you're going to do something this new and this unique with jewelry, I'll give you the time of day. And this is
more up your alley.
This story is about Jizzy Jewellery, unique jewelry in Ontario. Here's what's going on.
At first glance, it looks like any other jewelry workshop. Machines turning, hands crafting, and employees hard at work. But what they're working on may catch you by surprise.
We mainly are known for working with sentimental materials. Things like ashes, breast milk, we've done umbilical cords, placenta capsules.
And if that's too tame for you.
Most recently, we've started incorporating semen and vaginal fluids into jewelry pieces and sculptures.
The newer additions to the jewelry line began as a joke after someone commented on one of Amanda Booth's social media videos asking if she'd ever worked with those substances. At first, she was offended, but gave it some thought and put out the question online to see if there would be any interest. And after being flooded with serious requests, it wasn't long before she started making
Jizzy Jewellery.
So, how does it all work? Whether it's memorial pieces using ashes or bodily fluid focused creations, there is a common material used among them all.
So I am primarily a clay artist, so I usually fold in whatever material I'm working with, whether it's ashes or anything like that, and I mix it with translucent clay. So clients have to send in their own samples, and then again, we use the same kind of processing that we do for the breast milk to turn it into that powder. And then once it's a powder, same kind of process, we incorporate it into the translucent clay and then sculpt it from there.
Amanda and her colleagues use personal protective equipment to ensure everything is kept sterile. She says her client base is wide-ranging and she sees people of all ages, backgrounds, and races.
A lot of people who want to represent the intimacy and the passion that they have in their relationship. Some couples have really struggled through fertility, and either they found out that they can't have kids, or they finally had, the kid that they were trying for.
Amanda says she's thankful her creations can help represent a number of things in people's lives.
I'm not going to judge anybody.
Hey. No judgment here.
If that's what you want to do with your sentimental materials,
they're yours to do with somewhat with however you please, like within the structure of the law.
Mm-hmm. But there's no law against making jewelry out of
it. No, absolutely not. You can't just fling your specimens at anyone or anything that you want, but you can certainly make it into jewelry.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised there's a demand for this. I get the ashes one. Like, you know, you have...
I totally get that one. Yeah,
you have a
I can
loved one
totally
who's
get it.
cremated, and mixing the ash with clay to make jewelry. Like, I think that's a really cool idea. The breast milk, I don't get that necessarily.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can make the connection there, but I'm sure there's a good reason.
Yeah, I'm sure someone would have a good reason. And then when you get into the semen and vaginal fluid, it seems like in her talk there with the news broadcaster, it seemed to be a lot about fertility and infertility and things like that is maybe what some of the meaning is for people. So I don't know if I could understand that from my point of view, but it is odd, I think, and unusual and weird. But it's like she is a artist who found her niche. People, you know, if you want something made with your sentimental fluids, you're probably going to have a hard time finding somebody. And looking at the samples she shared, she has like an Instagram and a TikTok, I think. I looked at some of the stuff she made. It's very nice stuff. Like, even if it didn't have these sentimental materials embedded in them, in however, you know, whatever process she talks about, she's good at what she does, and she's providing a service to people who are looking for it.
Well, I mean, this is a good way for her to obviously get attention for her jewelry as well, you know, having this unique aspect to it. When I first saw the article for this, and it was like Jizzy Jewellery, blah, 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 I'm like, why would the author of this article use that title? It's making it sound like, you know, someone's making jewelry out of semen. And then I read the article, I was like, oh, that's exactly what it is.
It's what it reminded me of is, so you and I are both devoted fans of the Canadian outsider artist Datta.
Oh, Datta, yes.
Datta is a, I don't know, 70-year-old man-ish now in Ontario, who is primarily known for writing and recording music and filming music videos and putting them up online. But something Datta has done to make, I guess, crowdfund money, or to make some money to fund his creative projects, is he was selling things that he made out of his own semen, and he was selling nail clippings for a while there, and all sorts of weird things. But I remember he was mixing like his semen with gelatin or something and making things out of it and selling it, and I was like, that's such a bizarre thing. But then when I heard this, I was like, oh, Datta was doing that a few years ago.
But when it's a celebrity's sample, even though I have no desire to own jewelry with anyone's semen or vaginal fluids in it, for the record, but I can understand, at least wrap my mind around the idea that, you know, say Axl Rose, just for the first celebrity to come to my head for some reason, you know, a fanatic fan would want jewelry made from the semen of Axl Rose. I at least wrap my mind around that.
Weird. So what you are saying is you think there's an opportunity for this artist to make Jizzy Jewellery in partnership with like celebrity, like kind of like a licensing agreement.
I don't know if it's a licensing agreement or, yeah, I guess depending on how much sample the celebrity is willing to provide. You know, but think of the amount of publicity she would get if she partnered with Justin Trudeau, our prime minister.
Yeah.
And he provided his semen for jewelry.
His critics would love that. Could you imagine the conspiracy theorists?
Yeah, I could. There's a lot I could imagine.
I don't think we'll see that partnership, but if it happens,
No.
oh man, like I'm there for the fallout.
But maybe like a Jean Chrétien or something, like, or
I think more so it would have to be like an artist who's really on the cutting edge of, you know, pushing the boundaries. I could see someone doing it just to be completely
like
nuts.
a Marilyn Manson type.
I could see Kanye West doing it, you know, right now.
I can see Kanye West doing anything.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't put anything past it. But someone like that, like controversial, who, and speaking of Kanye West, why is it that like every year or 2 years, it's almost like it could be like mapped on a cosmic graph where, like, when the stars line up this way, one celebrity will just go completely wild. So we had like Charlie Sheen for like a couple weeks. Like everything in the news was just like the crazy thing Charlie Sheen did that day. Now it's like that's what happened now with Kanye West. It's like when he couldn't be more disgusting and horrific, he just tops it the next day.
Yeah, well, Kanye West is just constantly trying to keep himself in the conversation, you know, for the good or the bad. Like he's just, you know, if people stop talking about Kanye's going to say something completely insane and get himself back in the news again within no time. So, but yeah, you're right. Kanye could be a good partnership with Jizzy Jewellery.
But I think Marilyn Manson would be more. He had, like, at the time when he was huge, he had the right kind of audience that would buy. And
oh, absolutely. That would have actually been a legitimate good pairing, you know, in the late 90s. Was Marilyn Manson and Jizzy Jewellery. I said Jewels.
Well, if Jizzy Jewellery is looking for someone, I can say I'm not interested. Would you consider it, Aaron? Would you want something like this made?
Everyone has their price, so I wouldn't say no, but what I would say is we would have to negotiate quite a price tag for me to be handing out my sample for jewelry. But I don't think
it's not a no.
It's not a hard no.
Okay.
But it's a probably not.
Hello, listeners. I'm sorry to pull you out of the episode like this, but I want to give you a heads up on a slight change in Nighttime's release schedule going forward. To add additional value to the premium feed and to get in line with how many other podcasters operate their premium feeds, starting immediately, all episodes of Nighttime will be released and available 2 days early exclusively on the premium feed. If you're listening on the free feed now, you'll still continue to get all the regular episodes just as you have been. The only difference is that they'll be released on a slight delay. If you're listening on the premium feed, nothing's going to change. You'll continue to get the bonus content as I create it, and you'll get the regular episodes literally minutes after I finish them. So with all that said, let's get back to the episode. But for those interested, if you aren't already taking advantage of the benefits of the premium feed, you can go premium at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. I want to make one short call out to the listeners. I received an email from a listener sharing as a story of something that happened in Tim Hortons, I think in Ontario, over the last week. And I was going to feature it on this show, but in researching it, I stumbled upon several recent Tim Hortons stories. And rather than kind of jamming them in this episode, I think in the next few weeks, we're going to have one entire episode that will be focused on Tim Hortons related stories over the last, say, 5 years or so. Mm-hmm. So what my call out to the audience is if anyone has a local news story from where you are, or if you know of a story of something that happened in a Tim Hortons in your community, within the last, 10 or 15 years even.
We don't want to hear too much about, the Virgin Mary appearing on Tim Hortons in Bredor, Cape Breton.
Mm-hmm. I already did that one. But
that's already been covered to death. We want to hear about some other Tim Hortons stories.
Mm-hmm. Let us know, because we're coming for you, Tim Hortons.
Yeah, well, we always have been, and we always will be holding Tim Hortons to task. Mm-hmm. That's one of the unofficial mandates we have here at Keep Canada Weird.
But between the trick-or-treating, the Jizzy Jewellery, do you think did we do it tonight? The man kicking in the door, did we at least help keep Canada a little weird? Do you think Donna, who we heard at the beginning of the call, would she have enjoyed this?
Yeah. And I think by ending it with Jizzy Jewellery, I think we really put the cherry on top of Weird Canada tonight.
Aaron, until next time.
Jordan, until next time.
Consider sending a sample.
Yeah, consider it. Let's do a Keep Canada Weird combined sample.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mandate to keep Canada weird. But let us also call out for even further support in this mission. If something unusual happens in your town, let us know. And the best way to let us know is by sending a voice memo via nighttimepodcast.com/contact. Now, before we part tonight, I'm going to give some thanks. First, a big thanks to Aaron for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A big shout out to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, who supplies this series' intro and outro voiceovers. And lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to everyone who listens to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. But with that said, keeping the show alive is and has always been an uphill battle. So if you want to help take a bit of weight off the show's back, make sure you listen on the premium feed. And not only does the premium feed fund the creation of the show, it'll give you more of each topic than you find here on the free feed, as I'm adding exclusive content regularly, and I maintain a full back catalog of Nighttime episodes only on the premium feed. So for about the price of a cup of coffee, you can help keep the show alive at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And with that said, let me thank the newest subscribers. Tony, Jeff, Nicole, and Jenny, thank you for your generous support. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, but can't do it with a premium feed subscription, you can give me a big hand by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting some like-minded friends know what we're doing here. If anyone out there has any story ideas, wants to give feedback on the show, or would simply like to contribute a voice memo to be aired in an upcoming episode, you can do all that and more at nighttimepodcast.com. Aaron and I hope to hear from you. But until then, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte. Copyright Jordan Bonaparte.